Hastings Economic Development and Redevelopment Authority meeting, December 12th. And we will start by looking around. Looks like we do have a quorum tonight, so we will move forward with the items on the agenda. Starting out, let's talk about bills.
Okay. Well, we got the big bill in there for their acquisition of 400 Vermilion Street. That, again, we did with some of our excess funds that we had in the fund balance, as well as a loan against future property sales. There is an item in here for $10,000 for property purchase that we did not purchase, and Finance Department figured anytime property is purchased, it's got to be this HEDRA group. So we have that transferred to another account. We're working on a small area plan, expenses for that, surveying expenses for 400 Vermilion Street, and some legal fees, and that about rounds it out.
Okay. Any questions from anybody on bills? Okay, I will take a motion to approve.
Second.
All right, all in favor of approving bills for the month signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay? Motion carries. We will move on to our two items of business. Number one is the resolution to authorize the signature for the Second Amendment to the Rio Grande Purchase Agreement.
Yeah. As HEDRA may recall, back in January of this year, we authorized sale of a 1-acre property to Rio Grande Express for construction of an 8,600 square foot truck garage on 31st Street. It's taken them a little bit longer to go to work through their contractor and their engineer architect to get building plans. So we did have a First Amendment to extend the closing date to December 31st earlier this year, and we are asking for another 6-month extension, which would go until the end of May. In talking to Rio Grande, they have their building permit plan set in a fairly complete state right now. We hope that we'll be able to issue the permit here in short measure. Once we get to that point of being issued a permit, we can close on the property. So I don't expect that the extension will last all the way until May, but we do need to give us some more time at the end of the year. So we have a resolution there that would extend that, and that is the only change to the purchase agreement. I can stand for any questions.
Okay. And you're seeing like tangible progress. You have no reason to question anything moving forward.
Right. No, they've been working diligently on it. It's just taking them longer than one would expect.
It's the first time I've heard of that happening on a building project.
Exactly. It's really strange.
Okay. Any questions? Okay, I will take a motion to approve.
So moved.
All right, all in favor of approving the resolution to authorize the signature on the Second Amendment to Rio Grande Purchase Agreement, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay? Motion carries. Item B.
Let me get some screens pulled up. Podium PC. Figured it out. Technology. Alrighty, folks. So I'm here to talk about our Highway 55 and Jacob Avenue growth area concept and walk through a presentation that our consultant group, HKGI, put together. And we used this presentation in our workshop session with the Council and Planning Commission on December 2nd. So skip through a couple of things. Project is on schedule. We are currently in the public review phase. So it was released this week an interactive map for the public to take a look at the proposed concept for the area, and they can write what they like, what they don't like, just other ideas that they have for it. So when I looked earlier this week, I think we had 7 comments on there already. So it's doing the job. So just to preface, using some, there's land use categories for these concept plans, and just having some precedent images just to get those kind of fresh in your mind on what's been going on here. So as we've seen, low density residential housing, medium density residential, so things like twin homes, townhomes, duplexes, things like that. High density residential, more apartment complex style buildings, commercial and retail of varying different types, vertical mixed use, so things with a commercial or office component on the bottom, and usually high density housing on the top. And then more of a tech and employment side of things, not as much a pure industrial, but more of that light manufacturing, warehousing type thing. Then parks, greenways. So we had at this meeting 3 concepts that were put together, and at the end of this I will have the final concept that was come together on this one. But before I show those, just a reminder, we did utilize the subcontractor Loci Consulting, which performed a market analysis on the area. So when looking at these concepts, they are grounded in what we feel is reality and what the market would actually feasibly see in this area, not just kind of a pie in the sky, colors on a map of what we would really want to see. We believe that there is good market reality in this. So concept 1 is similar, kind of similar guidance to the comp plan area that was talked through. So commercial along Highway 55, a couple 3/4 accessed turns, a fully controlled lighted intersection at Jacob and 55, which is very important and that we all want to see. And then as you move away from 55, getting more into the residential components of things. And there's also some sited areas for parks, potential stormwater, and all those would be very malleable and moved depending on what the actual development that came through.
Hey, Alex, can you point out a little bit on the map there where some of these things are, just from a reference standpoint?
Yeah, absolutely. So, clicker working, cool. Yep, so here is Highway 55, right here. So, and here's the intersection at Jacob right here. So Jacob Ave, running north-south, 55 east and west. So here is currently Walmart. There's the high school, just for a little bit of kind of wayfinding on this. Moving on to what concept 2 was. The biggest change for this one was it included a more designated employment area, so that kind of tech light manufacturing area, and then a combined commercial employment zone. So since these aren't traditional distribution centers or heavy manufacturing, industrial, they can more easily blend with commercial components, and felt that that might add a nice add to the area. And in the discussions with council and the planning commission, there was seemed to be some pretty solid interest with the employment aspect of these things. Concept 3, this is where some mixed-use development started to get recommended, and that was right in here. So just that, trying to create a more, the way it was put, just kind of a cohesive design on that, where you see some of those mixed-use areas, like in kind of Apple Valley, or some spots around even Egan by the strip mall, or the Egan outlets, that mixed-use type of space. And there was, again, some interest from commission and council on that one as well. Phasing. So this is where the other nitty-gritty part comes in, is utility access is a big driver out here and is very important for the actual phasing of what can happen, because the current areas for most likely development are along 55 right here, with commercial, potential commercial south of 55 on the Augustine property. And there's only so much sewer capacity right now, and that they could tie in here. And the long-term plans are to connect to a main all the way down here. So the one of the big challenges is going to be funding to get that main all the way up to the property line, to then have it, help that development hit its full capacity and really open up the rest of the area for development. Another one, another part of the phasing is that a new water tower will need to be built in that area along likely the high part of the ridge, which during the discussion with council and planning commission, they did note that that would put it within eyesight of an existing water tower. So there's potential that that location could move as well, but being the highest point in the city, you want your water tower there for maintaining pressure. But those sewer connections, lift stations, and water tower are really needed to unlock this entire area, and we recognize that those are major expenses. So coming through, seeing what does that look like, we're working on getting some rough cost estimates on what all of those things would cost to get through. Believe none of these are on the 5-year capital improvement plan. So again, this is a very long-term looking plan, 20, 25 years. So just wanting to make sure, should developers, landowners come to us seeking development, we are ready to provide what we'd like to see and also what's needed from an infrastructure standpoint to make these projects work. So here was a comparison of the 3 concepts that were put together. Again, not a ton of variation between them, but enough, especially with the employment and the mixed-use sector. And there was a lot of great discussion at the joint workshop session, and the consultant group was able to put together a final concept, and that is what was released. And it is a blend of concepts 2 and 3, showing that employment sector and that kind of mixed commercial and employment over here, the mixed use zone over here, commercial throughout the corridor, and then a good blend of high density, medium density, and low density residential throughout the area, along with, again, the potentially identified neighborhood parks here, water tower, and also there was a lot of discussion around greenery and green space along the roads themselves, having planted medians where there's no need for turn lanes, discussion of a grade separated crossing on the west side by this ridge here, so that folks on bikes walking feel comfortable going under 55 and not having to deal with a very busy intersection and creating a more rounded loop from the north and south side of the development. But that is what was discussed and what is proposed, and I am happy to stand for any questions, comments that you might have.
And Commissioners, just a couple of points I think that are important to what we're doing here. I think the first question is, what are we doing here? The plan itself is meant to guide land use over a longer period of time, 20 or more years. And it's something that we would share with people that are seeking development. It's not a plan that we are actively looking to develop. And I think that's a key point, because most of the land that you see here is currently outside of our corporate limits. So we're looking at land within the township. So we have shared this plan and had conversations with Ninninger Township on what we're doing here, so that they're aware of it. So I think that's an important point. We've also had the opportunity to meet with most of the property owners that are involved in here to get their feedback on what they want to see. Now, this is before the plan was developed. We used that to help us in developing the plan. So that's how what the plan is and really what we're looking to use the plan for in the future.
I think you answered my question, John, but I was wondering what the driving force behind all of this is. So it wasn't like somebody came to us or there was some big development proposal or anything like that. It was just staff thought it was time we start looking at what the next phase of annexation is
Kind of
that?
a combination. We had conversation with one large property owner there that asked the question, what do you want to see? Well, it's a fair question. Maybe we plan this out in more detail on this. What we have generally seen over time is people come in with a piece of property to annex, and we don't think of it too much in a larger picture. So this provides us the opportunity to do that over time here. It's not something that I would say that is going to be concrete as far as this is how it needs to be for the next 20 years, but this gives an idea of what we would like to see within these areas. So that's how we came about to where we're at today with doing this.
John, is Highway 55 with MnDOT, are they part of this as well, or how would they perceive this for the next 10 to
Yeah,
20
they
years?
haven't been directly involved in this one. We have been involved with them on a potential development project in part of this area. Ultimately, we're looking at Jacob Avenue as being a major intersection, hopefully a controlled intersection at some point. Would there be the possibility of extending the 4-lane segment of Highway 55 further west? So we haven't had direct conversations with them on this concept here, but I think it's good to show MnDOT what we would plan in the future and help them with their planning.
Okay.
You mentioned some infrastructure bottlenecks, I guess. Is that more the on-site buried infrastructure, or is that like the new wastewater treatment plant not having capacity to handle this expansion?
I believe it's more the on-site infrastructure
Okay.
considerations there. So tying into the existing sewer system, specifically for the commercial component here at the Augustine, tying into the system here, and there's limited capacity there. So it hinders what they could do fully on the site. So if they want to fully build out the site, they'd likely need to bring up that sewer main from the south.
Okay, so we can handle whatever comes out of there, we just have to get it out of there.
Yep.
Okay,
It's a matter of pipe sizing in a few locations there and getting it to a larger pipe.
okay, thank you.
Thank you. We, as Councilmember Pemble and I spoke with the commission about this, and the HKGI, Brian, right? Representative Brian and John and Alex, and we had a pretty robust conversation about like where we could be with public transportation, where we could be with recreation needs, and where we need to be with housing needs at this point. So it just, that's probably why you're not hearing a lot from Councilmember Pemble and I. But just so everyone knows, we who's watching at home, we truly have talked through a lot of these questions and where Hastings could be in the next 20, 50, whatever, 10 years, whatever. And I would just like to point out the interface for submitting your feedback is really wonderful. It's super easy to find right now, but it's on the news ticker on both the HEDRA site and the City of Hastings site. You can just go and click on it and it'll open up a really cool web page where it's an interactive map and you can an idea, share an idea, or share a concern about an idea in this map that Alex is showing us. My question for both of you is, will this be, or has it already been posted to our socials? And where will this link live when it's not on the news feed? And how long will it be open? Maybe it says it on there.
Yeah, absolutely, and maybe I can do a little bit of a walking presentation on this. So the link lives on the city website. Oh boy, no, not that. Oh my goodness, got it. This is why we don't do walking things here. So the link lives on the planning website. Planning page of our website. So if you go to planning and zoning
Okay, thank you.
and then go to planning documents and wait for that drop down to go away, there's the Highway 55 and Jacob Ave growth area plan. So once you're here, you have the description of what is going on, and you can learn, click this link to go to the project site hosted through HKGI, and there's the interactive map. And as Commissioner Fox was saying, you can, it is very intuitive. There's the different symbols telling you about what you like, ideas you have, concerns that you have, and then you can go through and drag and drop things and add comments there. So it's a very cool tool, and we are asking for comments through the end of the year to then give HKGI time to prepare the final report.
Excellent, thank you.
Yeah, and I think we've also been working with our communication staff as well to try to get this pushed out so people know that they have an opportunity to comment. We'd like to hear what they say.
Thank you.
We also ask that all the commissioners share it as well.
So next steps, you're going to leave it open for public commentary. It goes back to council and planning after that. What's the timetable and steps?
Yeah, so the next steps for it, and I'll go up through, and so yeah, we're going through public review and public comment, and the draft the draft report will get put together and sent to staff for review, and go through some, final edits, and then again, going to Planning Commission for their review of it, and then getting presented to at council for their final review and adoption of the plan. And I'm happy to also present the final report here at a HEDRA meeting too.
And adoption of the plan is really just like the zoning if and when it gets annexed in the future? It's like nothing's actually moving forward at that point, or is something actually moving forward at that point?
So again, this isn't, there's no plan for the city to annex land or act on this. It's more the city's adoption of it is recognizing that when landowners seek to develop and be annexed in, the cities recognize this is what we'd like to see given that parcel. And it also doesn't go on our comp plan. There's not a comp plan amendment for it since this is outside of our current city limits. So again, it's what we would like to see, and for potential developers to be informed should they want to develop in that area.
And commissioners, I'm particularly interested, if we go back to the concept map, please, Alex, on the concept of the employment part of this plan here. We've talked a little bit in the past, general purposes of other areas in town that we might have industrial capacity in the future. So this is a thought that perhaps within this corridor here, that we could have some office, light manufacturing, that type of development here. So I'm curious as to your thoughts on that.
How many acres are penciled in for that under this plan?
I think we got about 120 looking at those purple areas potentially.
I believe the pure employment is around 35 acres, but then there's the mix commercial employment, so a little larger.
So, this would be different than the industrial park because it's in a different area of the city. And we know we've had some challenges to get things going in our industrial area. I'm not sure, from what I keep hearing is our economy is build a storage shed, put a bunch of stuff in it, and it goes out on a truck. That's one of the big uses that I see. And it's closer to 55. I'm not sure 55's ever planned to expand to the point where people would say, okay, that makes sense now because I got a 4-lane thing and I can get out of Hastings really fast compared to, you name the city that sits on a major freeway. So I'm not opposed to it. I just don't know what would go in there that would fit that area, and that's just my concern.
Yes. we definitely have echoed those sentiments, but we also are trying to be thoughtful about making this a space where you can like live, work, and play kind of thing. But aside from that, I know that in our prior conversation, we've been really excited about an employment opportunity, and I think in my brain, at least, it's a little bit more not necessarily like manufacturing employment, but like a little office space with maybe a little workshop. Like it's a little smaller than like industrial, and I think that is an important feature. I also, one thing we noted too is some of the employment opportunities that are blossoming in cities similar to Hastings, and how we could look to expand our employment opportunities in that way. And that was just something that kept coming up in our, and that's why when we asked to kind of combine a few of the concepts, the employment stayed, because we thought it could be a good use of space. And one thing we also discussed is making sure that, kind of like you said, Commissioner, it's not just like a warehouse that's totally empty and then you pull a truck up and leave, like drive away. It's something that could be adapted into something else in the future if that use were to shift. So it's just being adaptable and agile in the development as well. I think.
Yes, I think, with the employment piece, again, it's the access to the bigger interstate, so 52, 494. So as long as businesses can get out, and when you look at the three-quarter turn, what exactly is the three-quarter turn? Is that some kind of a roundabout, or is that just left in, left out?
Yeah, it's, you can take a left into a site, but you can't take a left onto the highway from the site.
Okay, so really the main intersection would be on Jacob Avenue, and as long
Right.
as trucks and things could get to that, that's what we'd be looking for, so.
Any other commentary, feedback on the plan? No? Okay, Dave, go ahead.
I think we've all got to realize that this is a plan, and we're looking at, 20, 30 years maybe out, and as it evolves, this might be phase one of a plan, and it might be phase 1A, 1B, kind of things like that. And but we wanted to have a starting point and be able to say, okay, as the property owners come along and say, we're looking at something, and we could, as the city, present out and say, yes, here's what we've talked about, and this is what we're thinking of. And that's why I say, but 10 years down the road, or whatever time frame that, things move forward at, those may be revision 1, revision 2, or whatever. But people have to realize this is a thought as a plan to move forward.
Okay, thanks. Any other commentary before we move on to the next items on the agenda?
Appreciate the input on this, and we'll be keeping you up to date as what happens here in the future.
Okay, well, we can move on to reports and information. Thanks for that update. That's very good, Alex. Appreciate it.
All right. Development update section here. We just talked about the Highway 55 small area plan. So we have that out for comment now for the end of the year, so we will continue to press for comments on that. Did get a permit in here application for the National Guard Armory to do some parking lot and stormwater approvals. So they will be taking those to Planning Commission after the beginning of the year. Also with Planning Commission at the beginning of the year, we'll be starting to work through kind of the first phase of our zoning code update. We are going through a comprehensive review and change of the code that we presently have. We've hired a consultant who's worked diligently on that. Alex, Ian, and Justin have been back and forth on different things for hours, it seems like, over Teams meetings, and we're to the point now where we can start sharing this with the public and sharing this with the Planning Commission to get comments on it. Certainly, we don't want to develop this in a vacuum. It has implications on a lot of people and how land is developed, but we want to make sure that we're comfortable with it before we put it out for comment. So, long story short, that continues on. So that'll be something that'll be happening at the beginning of the year as well. So that's really most of the new information that we have here. The other more important bit of information that I have tonight is to recognize this individual here to my right, Jen Fox, who is at the last HEDRA meeting in her career here. Jen has served on HEDRA board for 3 years. She came first as a citizen commissioner, I think around 2020 or so, and her role in the city council became the council representative for HEDRA. And it's interesting when you look back at the things that we've worked through during that time period. Back in 2020, there was COVID hitting, and we didn't really know what to do, and we came up with these HEART grants. We had 70 of those that went out, distributing funds from reallocated funds that HEDRA was going to use on projects to help small businesses out. So Jen was instrumental in helping us out and guiding us through that. We did things like, parklets downtown. That's a temporary thing. No one's going to really want that to last. That turned out to be kind of cool. So we did a lot of interesting things during that COVID period of time, and then finishing up the Hudson project, and then the work now on Block 28. And as we look through that project in the future, I think Alex and I have come to the conclusion, no one knows what Block 28. We're just calling it Gateway something. So we're using that term for now on. But Jen brings a wealth of experience to the commission. She's got a great passion for local governance. As a small business owner, she has a good context as to what is important to make the commission run. So I really want to thank Jen for her time and her commitment and all the great things that she's helped to accomplish with this board over her period. So best of luck and thank you.
Thank you. Right prior to this meeting, we had a few interviews for a different commission to fill some vacancies. And if anybody in the home audience is watching, we still have some vacancies, and you can apply online for those commissions, and you should do it. It's an incredible experience. But we were kind of joking about how people who are appointed to commissions don't always know what the heck they're getting into. You probably do, Ben, but yeah. But sometimes you jump into things just because you believe in the concept of the idea, right? And you just keep going, and it's just been such a pleasure and a privilege to work with you, John. You're brilliant, and I tell everybody that I get to work with you. And Alex, it's been such a joy getting to know you, and I can't wait to see what you do with your career in the future. And thank you all for serving our community and being so excited about economic development. We're really fortunate to have such invested citizen commissions in Hastings. I know that other cities have commissions, but nobody has commissions like we do. So thank you.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner Fox. Okay, with that, that's the end of our agenda. I'll take a motion to adjourn. So moved. All right, all in favor of adjourning the meeting, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay?